Are you a filmmaker or content creator with a vision that demands the best? Then look no further than IPGRentals.com, the ultimate destination for audio, video, lighting, drones, and support gear for your productions. At IPG Rentals, we believe in the power of collaboration. Our gear becomes an extension of your creativity, bringing your vision to life. And with our tagline, Our Gear, Your Vision, we're not just a rental service, we're your production partner. Why choose IPG Rentals, you may ask? Easy. We bring quality, reliability, and an extensive range of top-notch equipment. From industry-standard cameras and audio equipment to state-of-the-art lighting and drones, our gear is meticulously maintained to ensure you get the best results every time. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.ipgrentals.com. Our Gear, Your Vision. Welcome to Media Hub. Oh! Hello and welcome to another episode of Media Hub. I'm your host, Dondi Sanchez, and I'm thrilled to introduce our special guest, Mike Cauchon. Mike is a seasoned producer in the television reality world with a passion for telling compelling stories that resonate with all of us. Mike and I actually worked together on a few reality shows for Nat Geo and A&E. And what makes him stand out is his incredible versatility. He's not just a fantastic field producer and director, but he's also a wizard in the editing room. He pieces together the magic that we all see on screen. So today, he's here to share his journey and spill some secrets of the trade. So let's dive in and learn from one of the best in the reality TV game. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, well, how's it going?
Good, man, good. I'm so glad that you were able to work this in your schedule. I know you just finished one of the seasons, and I'll ask you, what you've been up to so you can let all the viewers know. But what show did you just wrap up on?
So I'm currently in Michigan. I just wrapped up on The Incredible Dr. Pol on Nat Geo Wild and Disney Plus.
Great. And what season was that you just filmed?
God, so I believe it's season 22.
Wow.
It's weird because in the TV world, I think it's season 14, but in production world, it's double that.
Gotcha.
I don't know. It's 22 or 14. It's been on for a while. That's all I know.
And that's all that matters. But, I think you have such an amazing story. When you first told me that, I mean, we've known each other probably since COVID, right? We met since COVID.
Yeah.
on Creator Fixtures and stuff. But let everybody know how you got into this industry.
Sure. So it's unusual, that's for sure. So I'm 41. I was a news reporter back in the early 2000s, in my early 20s, and I was a one-man band. So I shot, I produced, I edited, and I fronted all my stuff on live TV. And I loved it, and it was great, but I hated that it was all bad news, right? It was like, hey, someone got shot, go do that, or the mayor is getting elected, go do that. And I wanted to do like the fluff pieces that no one really cared about. So I ended up leaving that, and I became a bartender for a while. And about 10 years later, a psychic, basically told me out of nowhere, hey, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but we're supposed to work together, and if we do, we're going to end up having a show on TLC. And I was like, what? I was like, that's okay. That's weird. Long story short, she convinced me to quit my job, move into her tiny home with her 3 or 4 kids, and I filmed her life for a month. I edited a sizzle, and a month later, we sold it to TLC. And so I started the business.
I want to stop you for one second, because for all the people that are out there that are watching this and have been trying to sell a show for decades probably and never got anywhere, here's a guy that runs into a psychic, which if no one knows what to do, I guess go talk to a psychic and figure it out. But I don't think people know how hard it is to sell a TV show. It is super, super hard to do that. And here you are, and you do it on your first try?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that. I mean, there was nuances in there. I mean, I edited the sizzle, and I basically went online and I Googled production houses in America. And I found like the first, I don't know, 10 or 15. And I just sent them this sizzle, and I sent them, and, no one really responded. And this one guy in LA was responded, and he's like, hey man, like, I don't normally take solicited sizzles, but I just happened to catch this and it's really good. So I want to sign you and your psychic as part of my production company. And let's try to sell a show. So I signed with him, and then he kind of did the heavy lifting on bringing it to networks. And he told me, he was like, dude, this 1% chance that we're going to sell this show. Don't get your hopes up. It's 1%. The moons have to be aligned. You need to, everything needs to be perfect. And so he kept saying that to me, and he came back, I don't know, a month and a half later. He's like, you're not going to believe this, but we did it. We sold the show to TLC. So,
man, yeah. Did it ever air?
Oh yeah, it had one season. It was called Mama Medium, and it was on TLC. We had 6 episodes, and I mean, ratings wise, it did very well. But as you know, it's impossible to sell a show, and then it's even more impossible to keep it on the air for more than one season. So, we were up against the Long Island Medium, who's also on TLC. Yeah. And I think, I don't know the story behind it, but I think there were some problems with there being 2 psychics on TLC. But we had one season, and it was great because it brought me into this business.
Wow. And what did you ever go to film school or school for television or communications or anything?
I went to college for one semester in 2000. My parents called it Camp College, and that was it for me. So I went, but I didn't really go to class. So the answer is no. I haven't had any formal training in this.
Wow. So everything is self-taught.
Everything's self-taught, yes. Wow. With experience.
And look at where you are. Amazing. So
thanks, man.
What was your first job in TV?
So my first job was...
Besides the news one, like after news. Yeah, after news. Sure. What was your first job?
So I was in Connecticut for a while, and I actually hosted a TV show called Just Eat It. And I was the host and the producer on that. And we went around Connecticut and went to different restaurants, and, I don't know how to cook. So, they were like, here's Mike. He doesn't know how to boil water. Teach him how to cook. So I'd go around different restaurants in Connecticut, and we'd film that, and we did episodes on that. And that's on YouTube. So that was kind of my first real thing into reality TV. I want to go back further, though, because in 2007, and I consider this my first real experience, I was hired as James Brown's official videographer for his funerals when he died. So what? I was...
Are you serious?
Yeah, so in 2007, I was hired. I flew on his private jet with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, and I went to the Apollo Theater, and I went to MC Hammer's church in South Carolina, and then the big one in Atlanta, and I just filmed full access to anything I wanted. So, yeah, that was kind of my first real dive in. Yeah.
I had no idea. Dude, your story just keeps getting better and better on how you land.
I know, it's crazy the way things work out. But that was sort of my first real experience into dealing, with celebrities and, how to handle yourself and, how to talk to people and how to get the bites you need and all of that. So that was kind of my first real hit into that.
All right. And, now that you've been in the field a while, like what's the favorite, what's the best thing that you like to do?
I've had every job in the world, and I get bored very easily. And when you're in reality TV, no day is the same, especially when you're in the field. You may be filming on location with cast doing this, and the next day you're, 60 miles away filming a thing by the ocean. So every day is different, and I like that about it. And, I'm just not an office person, so I wasn't meant to sit at a computer desk all day and, just type away and do that. So this gives me a chance to kind of go out into the world, meet people, talk to people, and make some kick-ass TV.
Yeah. And that's awesome. What roles have you played in reality? So we know you've hosted, we know you produced, we know you edited, right? Are there any others? Like, is there anything, like, how did you get to the producer role from there?
Sure.
To go through the steps for us, the process.
You'll find this interesting too. So
I'm sure.
When I sold the show to TLC, I was co-creator and co-executive producer. So that was my first real jump into reality TV. And I skipped all like the crucial steps. Normally you start as a PA and then you go to an AP and then you do field producer and then you're supervising producer and then you go to co-executive producer. I got lucky enough to, and I don't even know if it's luck, but I skipped all those. So when Mama Medium wrapped on TLC, I was like, well, I don't know what to do now because, I'm a co-executive producer. And that's what, my guy in LA said. He's like, don't take a job below co-executive producer. That's your title now. And I said, but I need to learn in reality, like the process from what the PA does to the AP to all of that. So when Mama Medium wrapped and COVID hit, I went to Critter Fixers as an AP. And that's where I met you. Yeah. And, that's where it started. So I started as an AP, and I think they realized, oh, okay, this guy's got more skills than an AP. Because I'd been in news, I'd done the other thing. So they're like, you're a field producer. So they essentially promoted me. They didn't promote me, but they're like, you're going to be a field producer. And they basically had me interviewing everybody on that show. And then the next show, my supervising producer brought me on to the A&E show, which you also worked on, Dirty Rotten Cleaners. And I went from AP to field director and was in charge of a whole team of people. And then from there, I went to... What did I do after that? I went after Dirty Rotten Cleaners, came home for a while. I edited for TLC. I did a show, Welcome to Platteville.
Yep.
Then I was, field producer, director for a team that we worked on for the Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. We did that for a long time, and now I'm on Dr. Pol, and I'm a senior producer for Dr. Pol. So it's sort of all over the place.
And I think it's important for people to know how you get the jobs too, right? Because for me, I just learned that I knew you had developed your own show. I didn't know it was that, like, you had just wrapped and went to Critter Fixers. I thought it was like a couple years. I didn't realize it was like you had just finished and jumped on that. Because when Tina had told us about it, that what you had done, I thought it was like a couple years ago. I had no idea you went from that to that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, for me, what I've learned in this business is every job that I've had was from working with somebody prior. I've never gone on Staff Me Up or, Indeed and searched for field producer jobs and handed in my resume. I've been lucky enough to work really hard with great people, and then every job I've gotten since then was because I worked with them. So I met Dina DiMartini on Mama Medium. She was the co-executive producer. She brought me to Critter Fixers as the AP, then brought me to Dirty Rotten Cleaners as the field director. And then I went on to Platteville editing because I worked with the showrunner on Mama Medium. And she was the showrunner on Platteville. And then the Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom was Rick Dowlern, who was the showrunner on Critter Fixers.
Right.
And then Dr. Pol, I got the job because of a producer I met on the Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. So every show has been because I met somebody and made a connection and went from there.
Absolutely. So the power of relationships, the power of doing a good job. I always say, look, your last job is what people are going to go by, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what always launches you. You're always going to find your next job 95% of the time from your last job, right?
100%.
how important is relationships? I'm going to go into relationships in branding or networking, right? How important is that?
Oh, it's everything. If you don't have a connection and a relationship, if you go on a show and either don't do a good job or don't give 100% or don't connect, then no one's going to bring you on to another job. So it's important to be able to read a room. And that's what's gotten me where I am, is that people say, man, you're so good with people and you connect with people, and how do you do it? And, I'm a people person. I mean, and that's from bartending and doing all the jobs I've done. And, I just like talking to people. So if you're sincere, and you're just trying to do the best job you can, people are going to notice that, and they're going to say, hey, I've got the perfect guy, who can connect with people. So it's all about relationships in this business. Even when you're, as a field producer, my job is to get the bites, right? So your job is to interview someone on TV and who, what, where, when, why, and get the emotion that's behind it. And if you're not a people person or you can't connect with them, they're never going to open up to you. So I think a lot of it is that I was blessed with just the ability to talk to people, and people are comfortable around me, and that sort of drives, like 95% of what I do in this business.
No, absolutely. Because I mean, I like you said, I've worked with you on a few shows, and I've worked with hundreds of producers, but you definitely know how to connect with the person that you're interviewing, and you know how to ease them up, especially the nervous ones, or don't want to be in front of the camera or whatever. Like, you know how to ease them and get what you need out of them. For sure, But what about?
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. What advice would you give? Like me, I would not say I am 100% a people person, as far as and knowing how to connect with them and get out of it. But let's say there was a producer out there that was a good writer and could tell a story, but they didn't know how to pull that. What advice would you give them? What should they work on to be able to get to that point? Because it's only going to elevate their jobs, right? Their work, right? How would you say to help them get out of their shell?
I mean, there's so many jobs in reality TV, writers, producers. It's just experience, for me, and I can only speak on my behalf, is don't be afraid to fail. And don't swallow your pride. There's jobs out there that you might be like, I'm too good for that, or I don't want to do that. Or, I mean, gosh, if I hadn't gone from my start as co-executive producer down to AP, I'd probably not be in this business. So you got to swallow your pride, just be able to learn, and, fake it till you make it, is my saying and my life motto. And, just do what you got to do, and don't give up.
Don't give up. I love it. Fake it till you make it, which I have heard you say that quite a few times on shows we've been on. Mm-hmm. Do a good job. I love the part where you said, be humble, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, some people might say they're the other way around. Oh, it took me a long time to get over here, and now I'm a producer, but I have no job. I have no work, but I see this AP job. Yeah, but you don't know what that AP job is going to bring you to the next one. So
exactly.
Why even take the choice? Why even take the chance of that? Take the chance.
If you've got the talent,
yeah.
Yeah, if you've got the talent, it doesn't matter if you're an AP or a field producer or a supervising producer. If you've got the talent, titles don't matter. So you'll come on to a show, and this has happened to me, where you're a lower title, and they'll be like, okay, but we're going to use you, doing more because we see you can do that. And then that opened doors for me down the road in those actual positions. So it's like I said, swallow your pride, be humble, and, just do the best you can, and, be nice to everybody you meet.
But you know what, Mike? We should actually talk about that, because on DRC, you did move up. You did move up, right? So you don't even know what can happen because let's say another producer, an exec producer or whatever, has to leave a show or God forbid something happens. You don't know. So by you being prideful or not wanting to, I'm too good for this, or I'm too good not to, to go in a lower position. You don't know what can happen during the show that you might elevate during the show. You might have to move up during the show because that happened to you, correct?
Oh yeah, it was first week of Dirty Rotten Cleaners.
Yeah.
And my supervising producer had to leave.
Right.
And remember the show before this, I was an AP on, and now I'm a field director and sort of a supervising producer now and a field producer. And I'm in charge of, I don't know, like 15 people. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, and I had skipped important lessons that you learn as like a PA, like walkie lingo, right? So like walkie lingo you learn as you go up. So, I would go on the walkie and be like, all right, guys, let's plug them in and turn them on. And everybody would make fun of me. And it was a whole thing. But we had such a great crew on that it worked. And I remember the showrunner sat me down a couple weeks later. We were at the hotel and he's like, so like, what's your deal? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, like, how long you been in the business? How many shows you've been working on? And I was honest with him, and I'm like, dude, like, I was an AP on my last show. And he's like, what? He's like, you're doing a great job of faking it. He's like, so I'm glad to have you here. So it's just, it's just getting involved in your environment and sort of being a chameleon and being able to do what you got to do with the talent that you got.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because when you were talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened to him. And the walkie situations, man. Come on, it was like I know. Especially when you have it up here and you're screaming, you're like, Mike, you're literally blowing out my eardrums right now.
I still do that. By the way, I still do that.
Your poor crew, man. Or you would press in and start talking.
Bring it down.
Or you talk, and you would talk, and we wouldn't get the first half. We'd only get the second half. We'd all look at each other like, what the hell is he saying? Like, I have no idea what. Yeah, walkie etiquette. 101.
See, but that's what you learn as like a PA, right? And as an AP, there's like really important like lessons and like basic lifelines you learn that I missed. So, and I'm still learning every day. I'm on my 5th or 6th show now. But yeah, I mean, even last week they were like, Cauchon, bring it here. You don't need to yell.
So I know it all too well. For sure. I know it all too well. Yeah. My other favorite with you is like, Mike, how long is this in this moment? Is this really in the moment or is it an interview? No, Dondi, it's an in the moment. 20 minutes later, you're like, I'm going to kill this freaking guy right now.
I'm like, Hugh Downs, this is 2020. I've gotten better at that, though. I really have. You'll see on the next show we work on.
Good. Oh, man. Whenever he said in the moment, like, tripod, bring my tripod, please. I don't care what he says. 45 minutes into the interview. Holy crap. Oh, man. Good times. Let's talk about the development phase, right? How do you approach the development phase of a new reality show? Like what do you do?
Well, so like in regards to, I mean, I have 2 different experiences with that. So I had the development phase of where I developed Mama Medium. And then I was a part of a crew for Dirty Rotten Cleaners because that was a brand new show where we were trying to figure out what the show was from the beginning. So
absolutely.
Which one do you want me to kind of chat about?
Let's go with DRC, with Dirty Rotten Cleaners. Only because you're right. What was sold and what was delivered, 2 totally different things. I mean, and it actually changed while we were filming, right? The look and the aesthetic of the show and just like the whole concept, like totally changed. So how about that?
Sure. So, I got to be careful what I say here. But so we get a show Bible.
Yeah.
We kind of get a show Bible, right? And the show Bible explains to you what the show is, what it needs to be, the way it's going to look, how it's going to feel. And a lot of times, especially for first season shows, it just doesn't go that way, and you have to adapt. So, for Dirty Rotten Cleaners, it was a biohazard cleanup show where we were going to have like 20 different cast members, and we are going to follow them around the state of Florida and, watch what they do with cleaning up biohazard. And we lost like 96% of the cast week one. Yeah. So we were sort of left with, I think, 3 families. And the families, I mean, we had one crew, Mike and Missy in Florida, and they were kind of my family. And so now the show isn't following all these different people. It's following these very specific groups of families. And so that changes, right? Because in a show that's fast paced with, 30 seconds of this family and then this family, and it's cleaning. So like, how interesting is cleaning, right? So can you watch 45 minutes of someone sweeping a floor? No, you can't, right? Because it gets boring. So you have to create some drama and some, human condition ties. So that's what sort of happened. So when we were with Mike and Missy, they had 2 sons, Mason, and I forgot the older one's name, but Josh, yes. So we incorporated them into the show, and we found little moments. So, I got to know Mason, and I learned he's a sporty guy who doesn't like dirt. And then there's his older brother who's just a badass. And now you take those and you hone in on them and you bring them into situations. And for me, the show I was making was more of a comedy than it was a cleaning show, because I'm like, do I want to watch someone just sweep up a floor, like I said, for 45 minutes, or do we want to add some fun into this? So It started with this, and it did a 180, and it was still about cleaning, but we saw the human ties and the emotional ties and the personal ties with these families. And I think that was a struggle of a show that had a lot of twists and turns in production, and for what we had, I think we did a pretty awesome job.
No, for sure, especially with what, like you said, always we were figuring it out the first few weeks, and like you said, no one can tie into a house or clean. There's no emotional connection. So the way you found that, the connection of what you had too, this is what I have to work with. How am I going to make this work? That's what's so important about it, Right. And that comes back to being a people person, though, in that role.
1,000%. My dog's coming into the frame.
Sorry about that. What's his name? What's the dog's name?
That's Teddy.
You treat Teddy like a son. I see your post, man. Teddy it's like...
He's my guy. I don't have kids. This is my kid. So we're in Michigan. He lives here with me, and I work on the show, Dr. Pohl. He comes to work every day. He's the production dog. So he's living the dream here. He's got the best vet in the world. It's great. So
especially on the vet show, pets get the best of the best. Oh yeah, seriously. I mean, the better than the humans.
I literally call. Dr. Pohl, there's another vet, Dr. Lisa, who I know I'm good friends with, that got her number in speed dial. So if he's even walking funny, he's 13 and a half. I'm like, Lisa, there's something wrong. Will you FaceTime me? And, she's good enough to let me do that. But he's got the best care here, so it's great.
And just a little side note, because I actually know what you're talking about, because I told my wife, if my dog ever died or was sick, not died, 5 hours, boom, straight to the docks at Credit Fixtures. I was actually there this past weekend. Yeah. I was just there this weekend.
Were you?
Yeah, I was driving by, and we see a Buc-ee's, and my wife and I love Buc-ee's. We're like, oh, we got to stop. And I had no idea. I didn't even put it together that it was Warner Robins' exit. So I text Jeff, and I'm like, bro, I'm literally like right here, right now. And because I didn't realize it was building while we were there. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. But I was just there this past weekend. It was so cool. And because Jeff had told me that he thought that they were filming. But going back to the care and the things like that, like I would, like if it was an emergency, no doubt, all the way over there. I'd take the 5-hour drive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 1,000%. And I've got 100%. Ties now. I've got vet ties in Georgia. I got vet ties in Michigan. I'm kind of like, I've sort of niched myself into the animal guy, which is fine.
Do you actually? Now that you say that, let's bring that up. Is it? Do you like being stuck in a niche, or do you think that people should? Because here's the deal: it happens with everything, right? No matter what position, honestly, right? Whether you're a DP or producer or creator, like you get pigeonholed a little bit, right? Once you get in, do you find that as a positive or a negative?
I mean, it's how you look at it, right? A job's a job is a job. But yeah, I mean, so for me, I started off in reality drama. I went to animals. Then I went to drama, animals. So it's, I mean, the great thing about animals is, and a lot of people will tell you this, there's different types of reality TV producers. There's the drama ones that, they'll do and say whatever they need to say to get the bite. That's not who I am. So it's nice to work on animal shows because I see it as more of a docu-series than a reality show. You're not really producing things. You're getting story from what's actually happening. So you're not kind of setting things up. But niche-wise, I mean, that's what's great about this business. And for me is, I might be working on the Dr. Pol show now. And then when this ends, I might be on another drama show. And then if I get sick of drama, I can, I've got the experience to do animal stuff and I'll go back to the animals. So it's for me, I don't mind. My big want, this is what I want, and this is going to sound crazy. Yeah. I want to work on an alien show, like one of those like Area 51 shows where like they go and find aliens. That's like my guilty pleasure of reality producing that I really want to do. So if anybody's watching and they want reality producer that's great for aliens in an alien show, call me.
I actually did. I worked on a show called In Search of in the 90s, which was an original show in the 70s. And one of my episode was voodoo, but one of the episodes was on UFO and stuff like that. You would turn it into a comedy, though. You would definitely turn it into a comedy.
Listen, here's the thing. You can still be serious and have a little bit of comedy in there, right? So you can tell the story and still have some humor in it. Yeah. And we're living in crazy times, man. Like, if you don't have the humor, I feel bad for people that don't have a sense of humor, especially the climate we're living in right now.
No, that's actually a very good point. What show? Actually, one of the things that I remember when we were rapping on MODOK and you were worried about where you were going next, and there was a rehab show that was happening. You're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I can't do it. And I was surprised. I was like, Mike would do a rehab show, and you're like, nope. No.
I got a call about that, and I was like, it was one of those shows where it was a trashy show. I'm not as taking myself out of being a reality TV producer, and as a viewer, this was guilty pleasure, and I knew I just didn't have that in me. And I don't want to be that guy. A lot of people, I think people that aren't in this business look at producers as manipulative people, not good people. They do what they have to do to get the bite out. And that's not me. Like, I don't want to be put in a situation where, I'm using my God-given gift with people to manipulate them or get them to do something they don't want to do. And so those are morals that I have that I carry with me in this business.
I'm glad you said that, because bringing the moral and value issue into your workplace, in you, and it's almost your brand. Like we interviewed somebody else, and that was the main thing that he said was his branding, was bringing his values and his morals into his workplace on how he's perceived. Mm-hmm. So how important do you think that is, to bring your values and your morals, to brand yourself, so that people will know Mike would be great for this, or no, don't even bother calling Mike for this because that doesn't fall with him.
Well, I think there's two different groups, right? So there's people that are looking for the hardcore manipulative producer to get those bites no matter what. And there's shows out there that are like that. People know that's not me, and I don't want that.
Right.
Which is great, because now, I have an understanding of people are like, oh, Mike's a compassionate person. And the shows I get called for tend to be more of a moral caliber, and are more docu-series and not that backstabbing bachelorette type of stuff. So for me, it's great. I just people know who you are very quickly. When you work on these shows, you're spending 12-hour days with everybody. You can't hide your true colors, right? So people figure you out really quickly. So that's worked out for me so far.
No, well, that's good, because for me, personally, I'm the same way. Like, I said in another interview, there's only one show that I asked to get off of my whole career, because I was going home feeling not right, and I was like, I can't do this. So, like, within the first couple days, I was like, look, it's not you, it's me. It has nothing to do with your show. It just, I don't sit right. I need to get off the show. And I think, especially for people that are trying to get in the business or trying to move up in their career, they think that I want them to know that, listen, you don't have to sell yourself out to move up in this industry. And that's what I wanted to really get across with that. You don't have to do that. Stick to your guns, and people are going to respect you more if you stick to your guns and, wait it out. Don't just take a job for the money because, you need it. You know what I mean?
And they'll find spots for you in the future on shows that you'll fit in on. That's what's great about it.
No, that's a very good point. So, throughout all the shows you've done, right, and you know how things go, everything that's planned might not work out the way it is planned, right? We all know that. Right? You don't know what you're walking into that day, right? But in your opinion, how do you handle challenges and unexpected situations during filming? And if you have something to share, like a story to go, that would be best.
Sure. So, and I'm trying to think of, obviously, you and I both signed a lot of NDAs, so I don't
Oh, no, I know, of course. Yeah, I'm sure. So whatever you think is good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, things, like you said, you may have a plan and you get there and your plan is falling apart. Without getting into specifics or what show I'm working on or what happened, there was a time where I was working on a show, big budget show, and, the network's spending millions of dollars. So if you have a plan and it falls through, you have to come up with a plan B, because that day can't just be a wash, because the network loses thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you have to adapt and you have to pivot. So, for me, each day, when I go the night before, I think about that and I say, okay, tomorrow we're going to film this. Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? Well, then I can shift to this, or I can do that. And I try to prep myself as much as I can so that I have options when things fall apart. Sometimes there's just no time, and you, in the moment, have to figure out what to do, and you have to make that choice. And a lot of times there's no time to call the showrunner or this person or that person. They're busy. You just got to decide. And I think that's where instincts come into play. Just sort of figuring out how to pivot from that certain situation.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thinking on your feet, making sure you get something, making lemonade out of lemons, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Listen, I know you and I both, we could come up with experiences together, right?
For sure.
That we've had to pivot on, and it's just part of the business. You have to, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make decisions. Don't be afraid to use your gut. Gut comes into this business a lot. intuition and what you should do in certain circumstances. You're not always going to make the right decision, but you cannot not make a decision, right? So you can't just stand there and go, well, I'm not going to do anything. You have to figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's all good, especially for somebody new. Let's say an AP or something like that. That might get put in a position. Like, let's say 2 stories are going on, and the AP, you're like, hey, I need you to produce this next segment, and you don't want them to be scared on the spot because something doesn't work out. Actually, that's how they're going to be testing. That's how people are going to be watching and be like, hey, he or she could handle it. Let's move he or she up. Let's give them
exactly. That's exactly how
it happens.
Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. In your opinion, what makes a good reality TV show successful?
There's a lot of different answers to that. There's viewership and there's ratings. But for me, I think reality is all about the human condition, and it's about how people react to certain circumstances and the emotion that comes into play. For a show to be successful, in my opinion, you got to be able to connect with these characters, these real people, right? So if there's a lot of producing going on, and when I say producing, I mean scripted things, some of their shows do it very well, but for me, I like to keep it as real and raw as possible. And I think people subconsciously pick up on that when they watch shows. Dr. Pole's been on the air for 12 years, and it's because it's not messed with. It's literally, we follow the doctor, the vets, the clinic, we watch them do what they do, and then we interview people that are bringing in their animals, and how are you feeling? Like, this has got to be a scary time for you. I have a dog. I'd be terrified if something was going on. Tell me what's going through your mind. So it's connecting with people and just getting a genuine reaction. And I think the audience and viewers recognize that and want to continue to watch that.
That's good. Which brought me to my next question. I think you answered it a little bit, but the storytelling part, right? How do you balance the storytelling and the entertainment, but still maintaining the authenticity of the show? How do you balance all that? Because you need a little bit of everything, right?
Sure, you do need a little bit of everything, but I think, and again, it's different for first season shows versus, later season shows, but and I'm going to use Dr. Pole as an example again, it finds itself. So the storytelling, and my thing is, I want, and this is where you kind of make fun of me a little bit for my interviews being so long, but I've been an editor too. So I know I've been in the edit bay, and I'm like, damn, I wish they would have asked this, or I wish they would have gotten that bite. So I'm always thinking, okay, what can they use in edit? I watch what the guys are filming. I mean, even as minute as it's raining, right? The raining has nothing to do with the story. But if you ask somebody about the weather and like, hey, it's raining, like, how was your drive in today? You might get a bite that's like, oh my God, it's a great bite. It was golden. It had nothing to do, but it spaces out the stories a little bit and gives you kind of a different little insight into the day. So I try to find any moments, and I try to utilize myself as an editor in the field in what I would ask them and what I would do. I probably didn't answer your question, but that's where my brain went.
No, but that brings up a good question for me. How much in Dr. Pole do you have say about the edit, the finished product?
So what's great about Dr. Pole is we have a great relationship with post, and we often have conference calls. Now, obviously they're not here, we're in the field, but every week, when they're working on episodes, we chat with one another, and they'll say, hey, here's the beat sheet for episode so-and-so. Tell me what you think. Was there a piece you think would be better or missing? And it's great because I think in a lot of shows there's this disconnect between field and edit, and they're two separate entities. It's like, okay, the field shot this, they're done. Now we take what they have and we got to turn it into something. If you bring these two groups in and you just chat, it's like, it's
common sense.
I know. Right.
Common
sense. But a lot of shows don't do that. A lot of shows we work on, and like, I don't even know who's in edit or what they're doing. And it's
Right.
like, I did my job and I'm on my other show and now they're editing, you know? So it's in order to have a successful show, and I think that's why Dr. Pool's done so well, is that we chat with them and we go, hey, you know what, in that scene though, this happened, you might want to grab that.
Listen. This is a huge pet peeve of mine, and I don't know where down the line it changed in reality worlds, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, when reality first came out, they would have multiple producers. The producers would come out, do their segment or their episode.
Mm-hmm.
Then that producer would go into edit, sit down,
Mm-hmm.
say the story.
Mm-hmm.
The other producers in the field. Somehow editors became, and I'm not dissing editors. It has nothing to do with editors. But editors don't know the people. They don't know the character. They don't know them on a personal level. And they don't know how everything really played out behind the scenes. They're only seeing what we're sending them. Right? And of course notes, you know, with between you and the AP and how it works. And we're going to talk about that process. I think it's a very important process, right? But somehow that got lost. I don't know if it's a budget thing or I don't know how. I really don't know how that happened, but
I feel like it is.
There is a
thing,
huge
right?
disconnect.
Yeah.
But the disconnect. Listen, when we did pickups on a certain show, I'm not going to name a show, and the pickups, and it wasn't you guys there, and and everything came from the editor that put the story together, and the character's like, what is this?
I'm not saying
like,
that.
I'm not saying that. I don't even talk like this. This isn't even me. And somehow we need to get back to that. Like, it needs to go back because it's a total disconnect. Like I said, has nothing to do with the editor, but at least have some sort of communication or weekly meeting or something about the segment that you come together and be like, hey, we need to have more input and communication between the two. Sometimes in every industry, not just reality.
Sure.
We work in communication, and sometimes we're the worst at it. And, you know, I might get shot for this or whatever, but it's the truth sometimes.
Yeah.
It's the truth sometimes, you know?
Yeah, communication is essential. I mean, it's essential for anything you do, but for a reality show, it's like the first thing you need. If you don't have that, everything will fall apart. And I've seen that happen. So, as you have as well.
Can you just go over the process of, let's say, okay, you're trying to figure out a story, right? And you said on the current show you're on that, you know, it's just you try to make it as reality as possible, right? But other shows that we've been on, and you're trying to make a story for the episode. Can you just go through the process, the whole process from beginning to end? Like, how do you go about that? How do you sit down with the producer, supervising producer, showrunner? Can you do that? Can you just go through that whole process all the way to post?
Yeah, I'll give you an example, and I'll give you one on Dirty Rotten Cleaners.
Yeah.
So obviously we talked about that, and that show shifted, and sort of we were creating a new show ourselves.
Right.
But there was a scene I wanted to set up, and it was essentially introducing Mike and Missy and their family. And the night before I thought about it, and so we were going to film at their house, and the whole thing was getting there and showing that their youngest son was kind of this sports star and wasn't into cleaning. And that's essentially what we needed to get, right? So we got there, and I don't know if you remember this, but there was a picture of him in the hallway, and it was the funniest photo of him. It was like a high school photo like this. And so we set up a scene where, you know, mom and dad were on the couch, and he came out of his room and popped his head around the corner and sort of was just like, they were like, hey man, you know, you got to come with us on this clean. And he's like, oh, I don't want to, you know, that's not really my jam. And they were like, oh, well, if you want to go to soccer and you want to do this, you know, you got to do this. And it just became a really funny scene. And for me, I felt like it wasn't set up and it wasn't fake. It was, okay, we need to establish you guys as, you know, this family and this loving family and this funny family. And, you know, this is the scene I want to set up, and you kind of go with it. And I talked to Post Actually, it's funny. I became post on that show. Actually,
I said at the end, yeah.
Yeah, they brought me in to edit it because they were having problems with it, and I remember them saying, like, I don't know, and I was like, listen, if you want me to give you a shot, if you want me to try to do this, I will. So I went in, and I ended up editing a lot of those episodes. But I was there, right? So I knew, like, okay, let's set this up, and I knew that family in it. And it was so much easier in creating a show. But it's important. I don't even remember what your question was, Dondi. What were you asking me?
You were actually on point, though. It's not that you forgot it. You were on point because I'm going to say it to you because you did say a little process. But let's say another show. Let's say a show that there's a showrunner, a supervising producer, and you were the producer of one of our teams, right? And they say, okay, this is the story we're going after, right?
Oh, okay.
Tell me the process of how you take those notes that they give you. I'm assuming all producers go, because you guys always had a producers meeting. Go, from the producers meeting, go from there, and then say, okay, how do you execute that? And then from there, take it in post. Or where do you lose it after that? After you execute it, are you done with it at that point?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, on any show, you do have a producers meeting. You talk about, what the supervising producer, what the showrunner want to get out of a scene. This is happening tomorrow. A, B, and C are going to happen. And I need you to make sure you capture that. And then what I do is, as a field producer, is I sit down with my AP who takes all the notes. So the associate producer will sit there and mark cameras. They will take notes, time code, everything that's happening. And it's super important, especially when it comes to verite and things that are happening. These notes will then be used later in edit for someone to look back when they have all this raw footage and go, oh, okay, so I know at 13:33, so-and-so laughed at this joke, which is crucial to the scene. So it's creating an atmosphere. When we go to shoot, for me, and this is my style, I know what they're looking for, and I like to get there as quick and as naturally as possible. I don't want to go in. A lot of times I won't go in and tell the cast, hey, I need you to do this. Say this. I never tell people say this. I let them get there on their own, in their own way. And when you do that, I think that's what creates TV magic. So after that scene's done, all the notes are there. The AP has taken all the notes. I will then write something called a hot sheet, which sort of gives a paragraph of what happened in that scene. And then I take those notes and I send it to this magical place called post, where a lot of the time that's where it ends. But in a perfect world, I send them those notes, and when they get to those notes months later or weeks later, and they have questions, they call me and say, hey, I'm not understanding this, or what do you think about this? Did you get that? And I am able to talk to them, and that's why I think, like you said, talking is so important. But that's sort of the process for a scene throughout the day.
Okay, all right. And is there? Have you ever run into it where you see a show and it didn't end up like you thought it would on that segment that you ended up being a producer on?
Oh, many times. So many times. It depends on how it turns out, right? So there are times when I've shot a scene and I'm like, well, that was horrible. Like, they'll never use that. And then I go to watch it, I'm like, oh, they used that, and that was great. And then there's other times I'm like, this is awesome. This is the best thing ever. And it gets completely cut. So it's, you try as a producer to create a certain feel for a scene. That's what I'm trying to go for. But sometimes it doesn't work and it needs to be shifted. And you know what they can do in edit? They can make anything look any way they want, right? So for me, it's trying to create that realness and that raw emotion and handing it to the editor and saying, here, please don't
mess with it. Don't mess with what I'm creating here. Yeah, let's be in line.
Again, there's a lot of hands in a pot, right? So there's a lot of people coming into play, creating a show, and sometimes the vibe is perfect and you just get all these people that are on the same page. And I think that's where that magic happens. And, shows stay on the air because everybody gets everybody. They know what they're doing. And then there's times you just don't know the people, or they've got a different mindset than you do. And it just doesn't work. So,
that's
I think
a very good point. That's a very good point, Mike, because especially in the beginning seasons, you know what I mean? That the first season, especially, everybody's meshing. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Everybody's trying to collaborate and work. And that brings me to the next question. How important is collaborating in a show with all the departments?
Oh, extremely important. This is a team effort. It's not you're not creating a show. I mean, even when I sold Mama Medium to TLC, I relied completely on everybody. Yes, I shot the sizzle, and yes, I knew the cast, but you can't do it alone, and you need to collaborate with other people's talents. I met so many connects on that show, so many talented people, and they taught me things, that I had no idea about, that I've utilized on every show I've worked on since. And that happens in every show. You work with these people and you learn something new, and you take that with you to make you a better producer and a better person moving on to what you're working on next. And I thrive off that. I don't know everything. I mean, I still look at myself as very, very new in this business, and I continue to just learn and take those tools and try to utilize them on the next job. But like we talked about, collaboration, especially between post and the field, I think that's been lost a little bit, and that needs to come back. But we're living in a weird time with streaming and cable TV sort of dying, and it's a weird world to be in. And everybody's watching TikToks, and it's like, some 18-year-old kid farted on his brother, and it's got 18 million views, and all he did was use his cell phone, and now Mountain Dew wants to give him $80,000 for that one video. It's like, I don't know. It's just crazy the way things are shifting. So it's like, you got to keep shifting with that, man, or you're going to be left in the dust.
So many things on TV are coming from social now. Things, ideas, game shows are all coming from social media platforms. A lot of them are. Not all, but a lot of them are, right? Especially in reality. So it's knowing how to use those tools to stay up with times. Would you agree with that?
1,000%. 1,000%. There's kids out there that don't even know what cable TV is. They don't watch cable TV. You say, hey, do you know? I mean, back in our day, it's like MTV was the coolest thing ever, right?
Right.
These kids, MTV, what is that? Is that
a music video?
That channel they aired The Hills on? Like, they don't know. So things change so much that, I mean, they're this all the time. It's TikTok, and it's, Instagram, and it's instant gratification. Right. And so, that's sort of where we're shifting to. And you've got to be ready to take your tool set and your skills and be able to utilize them in that new world, because generations are changing and things are going to change, as they always do, as time has showed us. So it's being that chameleon and being able to blend back into whatever environment you're in, and making it work for you and making it work for the people you're working for.
That's really good advice, because I wanted to ask you this next question too, is, because gratification and connecting, right? Like, especially with this younger audience, right? It's different, right? It's and always learning how to engage with them. So discuss the importance of audience engagement and how it influences the development of a show.
Sure. I mean, well, the basic thing is people don't watch your show, you're not going to have a show, right? That's 101. Right. If people don't watch it, there's no ratings, there's nothing there. But I think the the point is, how do you get that audience engagement? How do you get them involved in a show? How do you get them to continue to watch it? And I think it depends on who your audience is and knowing that, right? So going into a show, like, who's going to watch this show and why are they going to watch it? And if you don't have that idea or thought in your head before starting a show, it probably won't work, because you can't just say, I want everybody to watch this. I mean, that would be great, but let's be real. 60-year-old people don't watch the same as 20-year-old people. But weirdly enough, like, younger kids, like under the age of 7, tend to watch the same type of shows as people over the age of 70. So just throwing that out there, because Dr. Poll, our core audience is older people and really young kids, and they love that. Yeah. So it's finding, it's knowing your audience, right? Who's going to watch this? And that's something, when I did the psychic show, I needed to figure that out real quickly. Like, who's going to watch this? Well, it's not going to be a 45-year-old working man. He's not going to watch the psychic show. I mean, some of them will, but the majority of them are going to be
women,
middle-aged women. So what do middle-aged women want to watch? What do they want to see inside the show that you're making? So it's targeting an audience and figuring out, what they want to see and why. And then once it's on the air and, people start, that's what's great about social media, right? So once it's on the air, people can start tweeting about it. And it's like, oh, I love this scene, or I really liked it when this character did this or this and that. And all those interactions are extremely helpful in knowing, okay, for the next season, maybe we should try doing this or bringing this person into here. It's interesting and awesome, the interaction that can happen in between shows.
That's actually very good advice, man. I don't sell myself as a producer at all, but that is a great way to find out that engagement in social media platforms under the comments and knowing how to direct the show or a character or whatever. That's actually a very good idea. I never even thought about that like that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually use that. I won't get into specifics, but I saw someone talking about certain character on the show, and they're like, man, I'd really like to see her try this, or I'd like to see her out doing this. And I was like, that actually might be interesting. And, I talked to that character, and it was outside of her comfort zone, but I built a relationship with her. She trusts me. I trust her. And we ended up doing this scene that was just awesome that people loved. So it's, it's having that connection with people and being able to have them trust you and to bringing them into a new direction. And it was pretty cool.
That's actually very cool. That is very cool. Like I said, I never even thought about that, but that's really good, because not a lot of people. I mean, I read certain comments, but like to use it as a tool for your show or your job, that's actually very good. Like I said, I'm not.
Well, of course, you got to be careful with it, because you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, you have to know the character that they're pertaining to. Luckily, you had a relationship and say, hey, let's just try it. Yeah. Character could just shoot it right down and be like, no, I'm not doing it. It's all about that. But it's very, very good. What advice do you have for aspiring producers that are looking to break into reality?
Man, I wished I would have had something like this to watch when I was thinking about this, because I sort of fell into it. But what I would say is, you start off as a PA, right? You production assistant. You go, you get lunch, you get people's coffees, and hopefully you're on a crew where you can figure out what you're interested in. Am I interested in camera work? Am I interested in the producing aspect? And you get to sort of see how each of those department works, and you find out what you're good at. And you might say, oh man, like I thought I liked camera, but I'm really good at talking to people. And, they let me do this interview and I did okay. Maybe that's what I want to do. And then maybe next season you're a AP. So it's getting your foot in the door. That's the hardest part. And it's figuring out how to do that. For me, again, I did it sort of backwards and wrong, but they're always looking for PAs, man. Like, everybody needs a PA. They need a couple. So it's if you're serious about it and you're not in, would I say, a major city, or place they film a lot of shows in, you got to go there. You got to be a local. You got to be in, Atlanta, New York, LA, Chicago, and then just, go on Staff Me Up, look at Facebook. There's different groups. There's Crew Stories, which I'm a part of. And a lot of people post in there looking for a PA, looking for someone tomorrow. You got to be flexible. You got to be ready to go. There's plenty of jobs. That's where my mistake was. I thought, oh man, to be a PA, I gotta have this schooling, and I gotta know this person, and I have to have this skill set. And that's not it at all. If you're just a decent human being that's not a complete idiot, you're going to be fine. And you're going to find your place, hopefully, in that field. And if you don't, then it's not for you, but that's where you want to start. And that's what I would tell people.
Awesome, man. Awesome advice. Now I want to get to a very important part, because we know that we work long hours.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter the weekend, doesn't matter the holidays, it does not matter. None of that matters. And this is the industry we chose to work in, right? That's what I tell people. You chose to work in this industry. No one forced you, but this is what it takes to work in this industry. How do you balance work and home life?
Ooh, that is the ultimate question, isn't it? For me, I'm a single guy. I don't have kids. It's a lot easier for me to do this. I tend to dive into my work. I love living my work. I like being a part of it. I don't mind being on call the whole time, because that's what I'm here to do. So for me, it's not hard to do. My son is my dog, and luckily for me, he gets to come with me the whole time. So it's great. But for other people, like for you, Donnie, you've got a family, you've got kids. I don't want to speak for you, but I often tell people, I'm like, I don't know how they do it. Like, you're away from your family for months, weeks on end. You're not home, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, it speaks volumes to the relationship you have with your wife and your family. I mean, you guys are great, from what I see. And so I guess I should ask you, how do you do it? Because I don't have an answer to that.
Well, and I said this before in another interview, I actually got off the road because of it. Because like you said, I could have easily stayed on the road and been on, go to show to show to show to show 4 or 5 months. And for me personally, like you said, with kids, I had 3 kids at home. And my wife was literally raising the kids on her own, and you don't get that time back. You don't get that time back, So I made the choice. I was like, I got to get off the road. And what I did was, and that's how I ended up opening up IPG, actually, just like that, because I was like, I need to figure out to stay home and do my thing here locally. And because I still had local clients as well, but it was so easy to go on reality because it was multiple days, months at a time. The money was there, but I was sacrificing my relationship at home, and for me, that's more important, Yeah. So I ended up getting off the road, but I did tell my reality show clients, I was like, look, I'll do the treatment video, I'll do the pilot, I'll even do the swing team. I don't need to be the main person, just so I could try to keep those clients as well. But I definitely got off the road, because if you're looking to get into reality and you have a family, this industry alone is hard. It doesn't matter what part you're in. If you have a family and you're in the TV industry or TV and film, it is hard. Yeah. It is so sad. Like the divorce rate in this industry is really, really high.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, and you definitely got to think about that if you're going to do it. If you make the choice, know and tell your partner, look, this is what it takes. So it's hard, but for someone like you that is single and can move at a drop of a hat, like do you actually have an apartment you pay for while you're out of town, or no?
No, I'm a transient. I'm a total transient. It's funny because when I started, so when COVID hit, that's when sort of everything went nuts, right? So when COVID hit, I had a house I was renting, And I got rid of that because I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. So, I ended up moving in with my sister, and that was sort of my home base in Philadelphia. But that was 2020, and I've been show to show to show to show, and they obviously put you up. So, no, I don't have a home base. And again, for me, it works. It's great, but like you said, for people with families, I can only imagine. I think it's just about making it work for you. Right. It doesn't have to be you're on the road so far away all the time. I mean, if you're in Florida, right? So like there's tons of work in Florida. And so it can become a day play thing where, it's just like a regular job-ish. You're coming home at the end of the night.
Absolutely.
So it's making it work for you, just doing the research, looking up where a lot of shows are filmed, where the industry thrives. If you're serious, locating yourself to that area and making it work for you. That's the most I can tell you.
Mike, what do you do when you're on hiatus? So let's say you do 3 or 4 months straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you do a season, right? However long that season may be, right? Do you automatically look to get on another show, or do you okay, now I need to take time off and recuperate?
Oh, no, I'm go, go, go. So if I know a show is coming to an end, I'm looking a month and a half to 2 months before that happens and starting to put my feelers out there saying, hey, I'm wrapping up on this show, so-and-so, do you got anything? And it's like, luckily enough for me, the people I've made connections with, every time I've asked that, it's been, yes, I do have this. And yes, we want you. And so I've been working nonstop since 2020 because of that. So, I mean, there's been like 2, 3, maybe a month in between things where I was like, I don't know what's going on. But it's always sort of worked out, and I'm just kind of hoping it stays that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it will, man. Like I said before in the beginning, you're good at what you do. You will definitely land somewhere, or this whole hiatus thing with what's going on right now in our time with strikes all over the place, and people holding on to money because they don't know what the economy is going to do, or they're not seeing a return. Like the networks, not the production companies, but the networks are not seeing the returns they're getting, so they're making decisions. You just have to be in limbo, but it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out.
People need entertainment, man. They always need entertainment in some form or another. That can't go away. So it's figuring out where you land in that.
I will say this, and I don't know how it's playing out, but last time the economy was like this, or there was a war, like someone told me when I first got in the industry, it's like, look, entertainment picks up when the economy's bad or there's a war because people stay inside and they need entertainment. Now, that being said, when this strike happened, right, like on the last strike, like reality boomed. And that's what I was waiting for. I'm like, oh man, reality's just going to kick in. And it didn't. It didn't kick in. And I'm like, oh, what's the difference? And then you got to start looking like, okay, what's playing out? And the only thing that really is different is all the streaming networks now. So every network has to have their own content, but are they making money? Right. You could be spending money, but you got to make it to keep it going. So this is my 2 cents. I don't know if it's even true or not, but I'm wondering why didn't it pick up? Why didn't it boom when the strike happened? Why didn't more shows pop up into place? Are people done and sick of reality? I don't know. Maybe I have a show on it. I don't know.
There's so many options now out there, right? Like before, streaming wise, it was like Netflix and Hulu, and that was it. So people paid the monthly premium, but now you've got Paramount Plus, you've got Disney Plus, and just countless others where they've sort of strategically placed really crucial shows and moments. Like, well, you can only watch this show if you have this subscription. So then you're going to need this subscription if you want to watch this show. So it's not a one-stop spot anymore. It's spread out through the board, and those prices keep going up. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's like
you're back to cable prices.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going up and up and up, and so people are like, you know what? I'm just going to get on TikTok and endlessly scroll for the next hour and be entertained that way.
Absolutely.
And again, that's my 2 cents. I don't know either, but things are shifting, and you got to be ready to buckle up and go for the ride.
Like you said, man, you got to pivot any way you can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I want to end with this, Mike. I want you to fill in the blanks here. So, to be a successful producer in the industry, what do you need?
Sure. So you need to be a people person. You need to be able to connect with people. If you don't have that basic skill set, at least as a reality producer, your job is to talk to people. It's not going to work. Maybe if you find yourself as more of an introvert, maybe you should be in writing, or maybe you should try to do this. But you need to look at your God-given gifts that you have and how you can utilize them to be great at what you want to do. For me, and like I said, 98% of, why I do well is because I can connect with people, I can talk to people. And that alone is basically all of the job. As long as you can do that, you're great. So if you're a people person and you're like, man, how am I gonna get into reality TV as a producer? You already have it. All you got to do is use it on the show you're working on, and you'll be fine. And you got to have a strong work ethic. You got to be able to put in the hours, and you got to be passionate. My thing is I'm passionate about this. I love creating stuff. I love creating TV. I've been creating stuff since I was a little kid. I mean, I think half the reason I'm in this world is my dad had a video camera, the old school one with like the VHS strap, and he would videotape all of us kids. And I saw him doing that, and I thought that was so awesome. And then I got into videotaping, and then learning about editing, and then learning about how to talk to people and interview people, and it sort of shifted. So it's just being a part of that, and taking your tools and your gifts and making them work for you.
Awesome, man. Hey, man, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out. I think you had a lot of good advice for our viewers. I know they're going to enjoy it. I enjoyed talking to you. We had a good time. I had a lot of laughs. But and I wish you all the best. Hopefully you guys will get out of hiatus real quick and get back on it. I know you love the show you're on, so I wish you all the best.
I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully I'm sure we're going to end up working together at some point again. It always works out that way. So
I'm sure, man. All right, Mike, have a good one. Thank you.
Hey, you too. Thanks, Dondi.
All right. Mike gave us some really good points about being a producer in the world of reality. Some of his key points he told us was to be able to pivot swiftly and effectively. In this ever-changing landscape of reality TV, being prepared to adopt at a moment's notice is key. Be ready to put in long hours because this is definitely a demanding environment. Humbling oneself and embracing the opportunity to learn even from your failures is the hallmark of success. Being a true people person capable of forming genuine connections is a cornerstone of building a successful relationship in the industry. Whether it's with colleagues, participants, or viewers, the ability to connect emotionally is what breathes life into the narratives that we create. And lastly, set aside pride. Be willing to take a step back to take a leap forward. Sometimes a lower position offers the chance to learn and observe from a different vantage point, paving the way for a more enriching and a fulfilling journey. Until next time, I'm Dondi Sanchez, and this is Media Hub. Are you a filmmaker or content creator with a vision that demands the best? Then look no further than IPGRentals.com, the ultimate destination for audio, video, lighting, drones, and support gear for your productions. At IPG Rentals, we believe in the power of collaboration. Our gear becomes an extension of your creativity, bringing your vision to life. And with our tagline, Our Gear, Your Vision, we're not just a rental service, we're your production partner. Why choose IPG Rentals, you may ask? Easy. We bring quality, reliability, and an extensive range of top-notch equipment. From industry standard cameras and audio equipment to state-of-the-art lighting and drones, Our gear is meticulously maintained to ensure you get the best results every time. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.ipgrentals.com. Our gear, your vision.